A joke to start us off with?
No.
No, he
Oh,
doesn't.
he didn't have a joke to start us off with. Oh, I just saw some good chemistry jokes the other day, but I forget them. I know one of my favorites is what do you do with the chemist when he dies?
But
Bury him.
oh my.
Okay, so I'm I'm Terry Camerzell here with Creation Fellowship Santee, and we're a group of friends bound by our common agreement that the creation account as told in Genesis is a true depiction of how God created the universe and all life from nothing in just 6 days a few thousand years ago. We've been meeting most Thursday nights here on Zoom since June of 2020. We've been blessed with presentations by pastors, teachers, doctors, cartoonists, scientists, apologists, and all around smarty pants people who love the Lord and have a message to share. You can find most of our past videos by searching for Creation Fellowship Santee. That's Santee on YouTube. You can follow us on our Creation Fellowship Santee Facebook page. And you can email creationfellowshipsantee@gmail.com to sign up for our mailing list so that you won't miss any of our upcoming speakers. Tonight, we're pleased to have with us Mark Finkbeiner. Mark is the founder of the Tri-Cities Creation Science Club, where he holds creation science seminars every other month of the year. He also founded Mark's Academy of Science, where he teaches geology and electronics to homeschoolers, and science adventure tours, where he does field trips mostly on the Missoula flood caused by Noah's flood. His college education is in criminal justice, electronics, automotive technology, geology, and he has graduated from 2 police academies. Mark received Jesus Christ into his heart at the age of 12. He is now into film production, making flood geology videos in the Pacific Northwest and filming physics and Bible experiments. For about 3 years, he and 2 other guys had their own creation science TV program called Creation Foundations. His biggest project at this time is uncovering very profound geological evidence of a universal flood in central Washington that very few creation scientists seem to know about. And tonight he joins us from in front of his rock collection. So we're excited to hear what he has to share with us. Mark, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me here so that I can share this information that very few people seem to know about. First, to start off, I'd like to give you just a little bit more background before I start. When I was 6 years old, I knew I wanted to be a scientist and a mathematician. And so by the time I got into 6th grade, all I ever heard about was evolution and the 8 men. And I thought, well, since no pastors or teachers in churches, no one ever teaches on evidence that supports creation, I just thought, well, I guess science is not on our side. And so I gave up the pursuit. I thought science was just on the side of the evolutionists. Then one day, when I was 25 years old, I heard a pastor on the radio, and he was talking about all the scientific evidence that supports the Genesis account, the creation account in the Bible. And I was just floored. I just thought, what in the world is going on, and that was a whole life changer. So my whole life changed before me, and so I no longer had the same goals, dreams, visions, you know and so so what I did is I heard that at our local Bible bookstore you could get books on this thing called creation science that I'd never heard of. And so I bought all the books. I bought tons of books. I bought all the books from ICR, and I read them all. And then that led to eventually doing field trips. And I mean, God has really blessed in this ministry. I mean, he has had people donate an enormous amount of money to this ministry. I just, I can't believe the miracles that have occurred here. And so here I am about 30 years later, and now I'm getting to do these kind of things. So anyway, so today what I want to do, like Terry was saying, I'm going to give a presentation on some geologic evidence in central Washington that supports the universal flood. Now, let's talk about where all this began. Now, that's kind of a strange picture. Well, that's my wife there holding a rifle, and that's me holding a rifle. We were married in '94, and then we did a lot of bear and deer hunting in the Cascades in central Washington. And so this is probably about 1995, 96. And this is the strangest thing. Okay, now I had geology already, I had geology, I had biology. And so I knew a little something about geology at this time. And as we hunted around central Washington, the Blewett Pass, Kittitas and Chelan County, there was something in my mind that was saying, Mark, this is a weird place. This is not normal here. This is something that you need to investigate. And I learned about the history of this place. Chief Joseph, I learned he rode his horse through where Highway 97 is now, down there by where the city of Blewett used to be, which is a gold mining town. They had a 20 stamp mill there, and they mined gold. I forget how many years, probably 20 years, something like that. And so then I got on the internet to look up places to go rock hunting, because I've always wanted to go rock hunting, because I hadn't got into it that much. And so I found this website, and I'm going to get to that yet. In fact, I'll tell you what, before we get to that website, I just want to show you some things here that I found on the internet. This is a giant geode that's found in Cowlitz County. This is the south part of the Cascade Mountains, a giant geode that was just found recently. And then this is a big chunk of jade that was found in Darrington, Washington. And so we've got a lot of strange and unusual geology around here, okay? And there's the big chunk of jade that they hauled out of there, okay? And so this is where we're gonna go. And we're gonna go right there between Leavenworth and Cle Elum, Highway 97. And you'll notice where it shows sandstone formations and Lions Rock. Now, I want you to get familiar with this. Now, remember where Lions Rock is at the bottom of your screen. We got sandstone formations. Cle Elum is more to the right of the screen. And then just above Cle Elum, it shows Slick Rock. Now, that's really important for our study. So I want you to get accustomed to that. And of course, to the right, you have the Wenatchee River. Way up the north, you have Lake Chelan, which is a whole nother piece of geology we could talk about. Okay. And so now we're kind of zooming in just a little bit more. There's Peel Point, there's Ellensburg, Cle Elum, all that, okay? And then you'll notice we're kind of zooming in on miners' cabins. Down below is the Teanaway. To the left-hand corner is Cheese Rock. And then, of course, up towards the top, we have lots of sandstone formations. You got Lions Rock. All that's really important to try to remember in your head, okay? And of course, now, once again, on the right side, you have Peel Point, and that's a huge cliff. Lots of thunder eggs are found over there. And below, we have Cle Elum, Washington. And then just below Cle Elum, we have Roslyn, Washington, okay? Now, okay, so there's Roslyn. Now, you see the red line. Now, that red line right there, that represents all these coal mines that run from Roslyn to Cle Elum. Now, they're no longer mining those mines. Now, they started that in, let's see, I had this all memorized. It was, I think they started in 1889, something like that. And then they mined those mines till around, I think, 1963. And so there's a lot of really interesting things, lots of interesting history and geology here. So see, I'm kind of getting you prepped here. I'm giving you a foundation for how unique this area is. Now, this is really amazing. Now, look at the city of Roslyn right there, okay? See the city of Roslyn? Okay, now there is their cemetery. A lot of people died in Roslyn. In fact, the city of Roslyn, shouldn't even call it a city. At one time, it was called a ghost town. There's between 500 and 1,000 people that live there. I think there's more dead people in the cemetery than there are people that actually live there. They had a huge mining accident there in one of their mines. I think it was mine number 1, where 45 people were killed in the late 1800s. And let's see. Okay, let's back up. Okay, so one of their mines, one of their coal mines, has 56 miles of tunnels, and that mine goes 2,700 feet down in the ground. Okay, so now you think about, well, what makes coal? Well, if there was all this coal, and by the way, they still say to this day that they estimate that there's still 235 million tons of coal left to be mined out. Well, where does all that coal come from? Well, lush vegetation. That's how it got there. And then as we go west, we're going to run into all these tropical plants like palm fronds, various kinds of leaves about 20 miles away. So the further you go west, the less coal you have. Near Highway 97, near Cle Elum and Leavenworth, you can find coal. But right here around Roslyn, there's an enormous amount of coal in there. And so this is evidence that at one time things were a lot different, more pristine, more jungle-like. And then, of course, we have this universal flood, and it creates all this coal. And by the way, oh boy, I'm trying to think of the word now. I'll think of it here in a minute. What the catalyst for coal is it's that stuff that comes out of volcanoes. But anyway, if you watch one of my videos, I document all that, how coal is really formed. So coal is formed quite quickly, and volcanic action has a lot to do with coal formation. Well, we've got a lot of volcanic action that occurs around this area that did occur at one time. Okay, so now with all that in mind, now when we were hunting there at Blewett, I became really fascinated with the area, and I started looking up websites to find thunder eggs and geodes, because I heard that this is a great place to go hunting for thunder eggs and geodes. And upon my research, I could not believe what I saw. I mean, it was like God was telling me, this is an amazing place, and here, this confirms it. Now get this. This is not creation scientists that are teaching this. This is evolutionists that are teaching this. They're saying that there's 50,000 feet. Did you hear that? 50,000 feet of sedimentary layers and lava flows in the Kittitas area. Now that's part of Highway 97. That's between Cle Elum and Leavenworth. Now, get this. Now, I'm going to show these books in my slideshow, but just this one book alone, look how thick that is. This is just the history of that area. This is just some of the history. Then they wrote another book here about all the gold mines and all the amazing geology in this area. In fact, this book here, this book about gold mining, they call this area freak geology. Now that's the secularists, that's the evolutionists that are saying this. They call it freak geology because they can't figure it out, because you see, they won't accept the Genesis account of the flood. And so they're blown away by it. And they're trying to do a lot of mental gymnastics, trying to figure out how to explain this place through uniformitarianism. And they can't do it because all this stuff has been laid down at a very, very high, at 50,000 feet of sedimentary layers. And then here's another book that a guy wrote, and he's blown away by it. He's a geologist, and he just can't believe that some of these sedimentary layers can be 30,000 feet thick. Now we're going to talk about all of that. Okay. Then I got this notebook. I got all this information off the internet that I've been studying so I can learn the area real well. And this is just the beginning of it. A lot of geologists are just blown away by this area, but they can't get comfortable because they won't accept the Genesis account. Okay, so anyway, so this first drawing that you're looking at here, this is all the layers that are laid down horizontally. So this is what it looked like at one time in the past. Now, both creationists and evolutionists will agree that all these layers were laid down horizontally first. All right, so it starts out with the Ellensburg Formation, and then the Columbia River, and then the Wenatchee Formation, and then the Teano, or no, then the Roslyn Chumstick Formation, then the Teanaway Formation, which is a lava flow that they claim is 5,000 feet thick. Then there's the Teanaway Formation below that, and that's made up of sandstone, conglomerate, shale, and they're claiming that that can be up to 28,000 feet deep. Okay, that's like 3 Grand Canyons. So if this really is 50,000 feet of sedimentary layers and lava flows, and this is 10 Grand Canyons deep, okay? And so now here's the other drawing that they made. They gave this to all the people that attended their field trips. So you'll notice that these evolutionists now, they talk about the Swauk Formation, which is sandstone and shale. They say, well, that's 52 million years ago. And then they have the Teanaway, they have the Roslyn Formation, and then the Columbia River flood basalts, and then the Thorpe and Ellensburg Formation. And of course, below the Swauk, you have the Ingalls Complex. Now, the Ingalls Complex is really interesting. Now, you see now, if there's any kids listening here, now you gotta think about rocks. Now I graduated from 2 police academies. One of my majors in criminal justice. And one thing you learn is you learn that A leads to B, and B leads to C, and C leads to D. And that's how the FBI looks at it too. So you start bringing all this evidence together, and one piece of evidence leads to another. You pick up a rock, and it's like a fingerprint. It tells you what's been there. It gives you an idea, okay, how did the rock form? What is in the rock? And then that kind of gives you an idea of what is in the area. All right, so this is barite right here. Let's see, we're going to talk about barite here in a moment. Okay, now the Mount Stewart batholith that you see on the far left, now they claim that that's 93 million years old. Well, when you look at Mount Stewart, it's very jagged. And Mount Stewart is mostly made up of granodiorite. And here is granodiorite. Okay, hopefully you can see that. You see all of the brown specks in there? Okay, that's biotite magma, or biotite mica, and it's got a class feldspar in it. All right, more so than granite. Here is granite. Hopefully you can see that okay. All right. And so granite and granodiorite are very similar. All right. So Mount Stewart is a batholith. That means it was an underground magma chamber. Now it's above the ground. And so the evolutionists, they claim that this batholith, it rose up out of the ground. Okay. So as it rose up, all these horizontal layers that were horizontal at one time, they all moved up like this at an angle, like about a 90-degree angle. Now, some of the Roslyn Formation is at 180 degrees, almost at 180 degrees. Now, all right. Now, like I was saying about rocks, now you got to study rocks, and you got to treat rocks like they're a fingerprint. And so the Ingalls Complex is what we call Iron Peak. And it is made up of argillite, gray whack, conglomerate, chert, those kind of things. Now, argillite, it's basically, it's mud, it's dried up mud. Some people say it's metamorphic. It metamorphed into argillite. So they're claiming that the Ingalls Complex, a lot of it is mud. It's got chert on it. It's got conglomerate. Now, conglomerate, if you don't know what that is, that's just simply a lot of rocks all cemented together. So there's a piece of conglomerate right there. So it's a sedimentary rock. Now, so it was all laid down, I believe, by a catastrophe, a water catastrophe, a mud flow. And here's another chunk of conglomerate. Okay, so that's conglomerate right there. All right. So the Ingalls complex, you can see that's really thick, very deep. And that was all laid down by water. Okay. The Swauk Formation was laid down by water. The Teanaway flood basalt, now it has more silica in it than the Columbia River flood basalt. So now the Columbia River flood basalt, now though that flood, that came from dikes, southeast Washington, northeast Oregon, Idaho, and Nevada, and flowed this way. And I would say that happened sometime kind of like mid-flood, maybe towards the end of the flood, somewhere in there. So we've got flood basalts here in Washington that are about, well, according to evolutionists, it's 2 to 2.5 miles deep. And there's 300 flows. And they claim that, let's see, they claim that they're, oh boy, I used to be able to do all this from memory. So there's 300 flood flows, but they claim that it took so many years for each one of those flows. Well, if that was true, then that there would be almost 17,000 years between each flow, but yet we don't see any erosion marks between those flows. And we don't see any evidences of lakes or rivers between those flows. So we know all those flows flowed quickly, one right after another, because there's no erosion marks between them. Okay, same thing with the Teanaway Formation. Now, like I was saying, the Teanaway Formation has got a lot more silica in it than the Columbia River basalt. That's why in the Blewett Pass area, you can find all of these geodes. See, I found all of these here, okay? Because the more silica you have in your basalt, the more likely you're going to find agates, geodes, thunder eggs, and maybe some of you saw my 30-minute video that I did on the formation of geodes and thunder eggs. And so found this here, found a lot of stuff. Okay, I mean, I could bore you all day. Oh, and I got a good story about these two rocks right here. These are almost Ellensburg blue. Now, if these were Ellensburg blue, they would be worth around $600-700. Okay, so that's another thing that we're famous for here. Far as I know, nobody really has this quality of agate in the world. And so the way I found these, I was looking for agates in the river on First Creek near Ellensburg, and that creek follows Highway 97 for a few miles. And I was really hot, so I just jumped into First Creek. I'm laying down in the river. I opened my eyes in the water, and lo and behold, I found this guy right here. And I did it a second time with this guy right here. Okay, so there's, I got a lot of good memories of that place. And here's another geode. By the way, the difference between a geode and a nodule is that a geode is hollow, okay? And you got crystals in there. And the nodule is let's see, do I have, oh yeah. So this is a nodule right here. There's no cavity, all right? By the way, if you want to see what happens, okay, I got this guy. This here, this is a guy that wanted to become a geode or a thunder egg, but never made it. Okay, so you see the big cavity right there. Boy, by the time I get done with this, I'm going to have my workout for me. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so now here's what they're saying. They're saying that there's 50,000 feet of sedimentary layers and lava flows in that area, and Ellensburg, Washington sits at the bottom of an anticline. So they're saying that this whole area, the central Washington area, is an anticline, and Ellensburg is sitting at the bottom of the anticline. So an anticline is a fold of rock layers that slope downward on both sides of a common crest. Anticlines form when rocks are compressed by plate tectonic forces. They can be as small as a hill or as large as a mountain range. Well, this is a huge mountain range. And so they're saying that Ellensburg is actually sitting on 50,000 feet of sedimentary layers and lava flows. Okay, so that's what's making this area so amazing. Now, there's actually a creation science museum that just opened up in this area a few years ago. And Will Marin, he's the curator of the museum. And he's a lot of fun to talk to. He knows the area real well. He and I, we've gotten together a few times, went fossil hunting. I've interviewed him. I put it on Facebook. Hopefully some of you have seen that video. And then, you know, he's got this model of a backbone of a dinosaur. He's just got all kinds of neat things to look at. And these are just some of the pictures. This is a field trip that I did to Blewett Pass, which is along Highway 97, of course. And there's the Ellensburg Formation. We're going to talk about that. That's really an amazing place. Lots of opportunities for gold panning, gold mining. Okay, so here's a map. Okay, so there's Blewett right there at an elevation of 4,100 feet. As you go north, you go to Leavenworth, trying to just kind of help you get an idea, trying to help you get a mental picture of everything that I'm talking about here. Now, okay, so here is the city of Blewett in 1878. And let's see, the big building on the right is your 20 stamp mill. And the little building just in front of it, that's your dynamite house, your powder house. And over to the left is a public school. And so that's what it looked like in 1878. That's a stamp mill. And now here's what it looks like now. There's nothing, it's gone. And if you walk up the hill there, you can still find gold mines. I found a gold mine up there and probably about 15, 20 years ago. And I've tried to go back to it and I can't find it. Also, there's a treasure in there. There's a story about a huge treasure chest that a guy buried and is supposed to still be there. And as far as I know, nobody's found it. Okay, so there's another view of the city of Blewett, and I'm taking a picture on the other side of the highway. Right behind me, there's all kinds of abandoned gold mines. Just a fascinating place. There's that 20 stamp mill again. And in this book called Buried Treasures of the Pacific Northwest, it talks about this huge treasure that one of these gold miners, he came from another country and he had all this gold that he brought with him, and he buried it. He died and nobody's been able to find it, but it's supposed to still be there. Amazing. And there is, this is what they used before they had a 20 stamp mill. And it's called an arrastra, and that's how they ground their all of their rocks to get the gold. Okay, now there's a really cool story. Now behind me, that's the Pahastion River. It used to be back in the 1800s, and this is why people started gold mining there. People would just walk up to that river and pull out gold nuggets. That's how it got started. Imagine that. Just walk over to the river and start picking up gold nuggets. And here's another arrastra. Now, this is at the ghost town of Liberty, which is just about 25 miles south of Blewett. And this is the only arrastra that's working in the United States. That's what they tell me. It's the only one. And that's the ghost town there of Liberty. And there's what's left of the Blewett stamp mill. And okay, and then of course I showed you that book about Blewett Gold, the history of the Pahastion mining district, all that history. There's just a lot of history there. There's been different people who've written articles, books, pamphlets, all kinds of stuff about this area because it's so fascinating. There you got one about the Liberty Basin geology gold, about all the gold, the wire gold that's been found there. There's a lot of wire gold. Now, wire gold is really important now for our study, and there's what Liberty looked like back 100 years ago or so, and that's what it looked like. I love all these old pictures, and they all dressed up to play tug of war on the 4th of July. And now this is what it looks like today. And so interesting things about this place is wire gold, Ellensburg blue agate, fossils, diamonds. Oh boy, we're going to talk about that. Lost treasure. You know, how do we get diamonds there? And of course, the 50,000 feet of sedimentary layers and lava flows. And let's see what to look for to find the blue agate. Well, there is the blue agate. That's what it looks like when you find the real thing. And there are people there who live around that area, and they know where to find this stuff, and they're not telling anybody. And this is the person right here. This is the man and his wife. They own this rock and gem store there in the forest, and they know right where to go. I asked them, can you tell me where it's at? And then, no, they're not going to tell me. And they say it's really hard to get to find the Ellensburg blue agate. So this is what they found. And I asked the guy, well, how much are you selling that bigger rock there for? He says, I'm selling it for $6,000. $6,000, that Ellensburg blue agate. And by the way, some of the experts will tell you that the hardness of that rock can go anywhere from 7 to 8 Mohs scale. Okay, in fact, people have been so amazed about the Ellensburg blue agate. They had a PhD guy come, I believe, from New Zealand. His last name was Hoskins, and he came here and did a PhD dissertation on the Ellensburg blue agate. Now, this valley here, now just below this valley is Ellensburg. Okay, now they say that at one time there was a whole bunch of water that flowed through here, through that pass, that mountainous pass there, and it ripped up all the agate that was in the basalt. By the way, the host rock is basalt. That's where the Ellensburg blue agate comes from. And it ripped it all up, and that's why down here in the valley, you can find a lot of Ellensburg blue. There's a ranch called the Tomahawk Ranch, and they will allow you on their property for a fee. They don't let you dig. You just have to walk around, and you can pick up the Ellensburg blue agate if you see one. As far as I know, they haven't been doing that for a while. So these are just really interesting things. Now, gold is fascinating to think about. It really is, because what does the evolutionists say? What did they say about the formation of gold? Well, they say that there was two stars came together and hit each other, something like that. And they claim that gold is extraterrestrial, that it landed on this planet. That's how they say gold got here. But you see, they can never explain how it was actually created, because that would be violating the first law of thermodynamics, because you can't just create an element. You have to have other elements to create an element. You know, you learn that in chemistry. But these guys, they're trying to tell us how gold was formed, but you can't do that without violating the first law of thermodynamics. And I wrote an article on that. That's another, I would love to come back on here and explain all that sometime, about the formation of gold and how it had to be created miraculously. Okay, so now with that in mind, here is wire gold. Now, Blewett is known for its wire gold. Now, as far as I know, there's very few places in the world where you can find wire gold, and Blewett's got a lot of it. Now, wire gold is usually in calcite or silica quartz around Blewett. And so I talked to this gold miner, and he's very famous here in Washington. He's been a main speaker at Central Washington University. They allow him to come in and they allow him to teach. And he says that he gets a lot of his gold out of calcite. Now, calcite, let's see. All right, so this great big, I pulled this out of Pahastion River. There's your calcite. So in theory, I should be able to break all this up and find gold in it. Okay. Now hopefully I can set this now without dropping it. Okay. So anyway, wire gold is the purest form of gold. And if you ever pick up a nugget out of a stream, at one time it was wire. So a gold nugget was wire at one time. And Blewett has got a lot of wire gold. And these two brothers back in, I think the 1940s, 1950s, they found tons of wire gold out there in the mountains. And I believe this was their cabin right here. The Ace of Diamonds, former mining operation, the early 1900s, $120,000 in gold was mined here. And of course, you know, $120,000 then, I mean, compared that to today, what's that? Close to $1 million. And so you find a lot of these cabins just all over the place. And that was kind of a spooky find. I was just, you know, beating the brush and I come upon this cabin here. And okay. So now let's talk about the shale deposits and tropical fossils that are found in them. So here is a tropical fossil that I found, palm fronds. I've got buckets full of these guys. And you find these in giant mud flows in the mountains out there. And they're all over. You just dig for them. They're not hard to find. Okay, and so here we found all those palm fronds on the left side of the hill. And the way I got it figured, that must be a giant mud flow because all this stuff is broke up, you know, because you got to remember, when all this was laid down in the beginning at the flood, it was all horizontal and it was all together. So it solidified. Well, then the Bible, it talks about the mountains rising up in Psalms 104. So the mountains rose up, broke up the horizontal rocks, like these sedimentary rocks, broke them up. And then you have these giant mud flows and you find this stuff all broken up in the dirt. Okay. And it's weird because you find this in the mountains. We shouldn't be finding this stuff in the mountains because it's tropical plants. And here's another place you find fossils, lots of places. And these are some leaves, lots of leaves, leaf fossils. They're everywhere. I mean, this is a fossil hunter's paradise. And I found all those, you know, within probably 30 minutes, 30, 45 minutes. And now, here is a gold mine. And I thought this one was really interesting because, okay, there's the next picture. Now, there is a dike. That's the Teanaway basalt dike. Now, these gold miners, they learned to burrow in to make a mine right beside a basalt dike. So the lava, it flowed down at least from, well, let's see, I got this picture here I want to show you. Let's see. Okay, so here it is. Okay, so the Teanaway lava, it started down here in the Ingalls complex. It flowed up through the cracks, through the Swak Formation, and then it flowed out, and that's why we have 5,000 feet of Teanaway basalt. So these dikes carried the gold up with them. It carried the gold up there. And now here's the interesting thing. The gold is in calcite. So the calcite is in the basalt and the gold is in the calcite. I'll show you more pictures. I'll show you more about that. Okay. And so anyway, everywhere you go, you find like these abandoned mining camps. It's really cool because people were finding a lot of gold there at one time. Okay. And I call this the bottomless hole. I think there is a bottom. Don't want to fall in, probably won't come back out. And then there's a lot of gold mines that are still operating. There is no road or trail to this mine that is actually in progress. The guy wasn't around, and he's got his mine gated, and he had some really nice buildings. And I can't figure out, how did he get all that material up that mountain? And there's no road. I mean, you just walk through the brush, you just beat the brush, and you find these mines that are out there. You also find people you don't want to find either. That's another story. If you're going to play Indiana Jones, you run across some situations. And so, okay, so now here's this gold mine, and hopefully the next slide. Yes, okay. So this is the Teanaway basalt. This is one of the dikes. So this guy burrowed right through it, and look at all the calcite on the walls. Now that's where you're going to find your wire gold. Okay, and there's a chunk of calcite. That's where you're going to find your wire gold right there. And here's a seam of calcite right there. You can kind of see the white. It's not the best picture, but anyway. And so anyway, so here's, a warning: active lode mines, will trespassers arrested, punished, and danger, mining claim, no prospecting. It's kind of cool just hiking around, and you find these places. And then we find the dynamite boxes, the explosive boxes, and this is where they put dynamite back in the day when they were mining all this. And so, okay, so now I've kind of given you just a lot of interesting little tidbits there. So now in Genesis 7:11, it says, well, I can't hardly read that because things are in the way. So anyway, so what this is saying here is that Genesis 7:11, it's talking about the fountains of the great deep breaking up and the windows of heaven were opened. Now, myself, I believe that means that there was water shooting up out of the earth. And I think maybe we have found where the water shot up out of the earth. When I was in Yellowstone, I took that picture of that buffalo, and I'm thinking, this is kind of the aftermath of the flood. You think about animals and human beings, they were living, the Bible talks about, before the flood happened, people were just living and marrying and giving in marriage. They were living it up. They weren't listening to Noah. They weren't heeding Noah's warnings. And human beings were a lot like that buffalo, just standing there. And then all of a sudden, everything just started erupting out of the ground and blowing up and ruined everybody's day. And so I think that, okay, so anyway, I made this little graph here. So in the beginning, you had the fountains of the great deep. You had volcanoes going off, earthquakes, and then mid-flood, the sedimentary layers were being laid down, animals were being buried, and that would start the fossil process. And then the end of the flood, you have the mountain ranges rising up according to Psalms 104. The ocean basins were being created. And then that was the time when a lot of canyons were being created and rivers and valleys, more fossils, more animals being buried. And then that brought us to the Ice Age, which then caused the Missoula flood and other local floods that happen around the planet. Okay, so in Psalms 104, it talks about the mountains, they're rising up. And as they're rising up, the ocean basins are going down. And that's where all the flood waters went, was in the ocean basins. And I believe that this could be the source right here, because this is the mid-Atlantic range, and it wraps around the earth like seams on a baseball, and it intersects itself in the Indian Ocean. And I think that this mountain range could very well be the source for the fountains of the great deep. That's a theory of a few different creation scientists. And so, okay, so here we have this hydrothermal venting at Endeavor Ridge. Now, this is off the coast of Washington, where I'm at. Hydrothermal sulfate rock samples from the Endeavor segment of the Juan de Fuca Ridge, northeastern Pacific Ocean. And this hydrothermal activity created barite. So this is barite right here. This is a really heavy rock for its size. And so this would have been created from hydrothermal activity. So could this be a leftover? Could this be a leftover of the fountains of the great deep? Because we got places all over the world where water is still erupting out of the ground. We got places like that in Oregon. There's places like that in Wyoming. They're everywhere. So it's kind of cool. And so here is your hydrothermal water shooting up out of the bottom of the ocean, and it's heavily laden with minerals. So all that has to do, in theory, is get into a crack in a rock, and then the minerals, they solidify in the crack, and then it can create various kinds of minerals. So here's a chunk of Teanaway basalt. Now look at that. Right there, you got an agate in the basalt. So when this basalt was flowing, there was a cavity, and hydrothermal activity got in there, and it formed that nice little agate right there. And it's not Ellensburg blue, unfortunately. I can never seem to find any. So here's a map now of the Appalachian Mountains. Now remember, I talked about the mountains rising up. So the Appalachian Mountains, I believe that they rose up first during the flood. That's why they're so wore down. The Appalachian Mountains are really round. Then you go west towards the Rocky Mountains. They're a little more jagged. That's because they rose up, I believe, during mid-flood. And then you have the Cascade Mountain Range, and they're really jagged. So they rose up towards the end of the flood. So the type of geology I'm talking about here today is actually into the flood type geology towards the end. That's why the Cascades are so jagged. That's why Mount Stewart can't be 92 or 93 million years old, because it's too jagged. And so there's a picture of the Appalachians. You'll notice how well rounded they are. That's because the flood waters eroded them down pretty good. And then here are the Rockies. They're a little more jagged. Another picture of the Rockies. And then we get to the Cascades, and you'll notice how jagged they really are. And so there's Mount Stewart. Mount Stewart is a beautiful batholith mountain. And I took this picture because this is what a miner saw every morning when he woke up. Imagine living in a place like that. See that every morning in your backyard. Okay. And there's a close-up view of Mount Stewart. Remember, it's granodiorite. Okay, that's important. And so around the area of Mount Stewart, we have what's called serpentinite. And serpentinite is a metamorphic rock. The parent rock of serpentinite is peridotite. So serpentinite is a metamorphic rock. And look what it says here. It was created through hydrothermal solutions. There you go again, hydrothermal. This is water again, hot water. Could this be related to the fountains of the Great Deep shooting up out of the ground? Okay, so hydrothermal solutions concentrated during final stages of magma crystallization in batholiths, or seawater solutions drawn down into subduction zones. All right. I don't know how well we're doing for time. I can go on and on and on. Okay. So it's an ultramafic rock. That means it's got a lot of magnesium and a lot of iron in it. Let's see, forget that one. Okay, so here we are.
Mark,
Yes.
probably want to wrap up in about 7 minutes.
Okay, let's do this. All right, let me just get through all this. And there's pumice going through serpentinite right there. And okay, so let's start at this, right? Okay, so here's an evolutionist who admitted that the Roslyn Formation could be as thick as 36,000 feet. So that's really amazing. And of course, this book calls this area freak geology. So now we're going to look at the Thorpe Gravels and Craig's Hill. And the Thorpe Gravels now is at the top. It's 4,000 feet thick. And that's made up of the Thorpe Gravels and the Ellensburg Formation. And the Ellensburg Formation is a lahar. And that lahar started at White Pass, which is about 70, 80 miles from here. And this is where the lahar ended up at. And it flowed so violently, and this is what your mainline geologist will tell you, a lahar can flow so violently that it doesn't have time to sort out the rocks. And so you can find heavier rocks at the top and even lighter rocks at the bottom, which is the opposite of what you normally would see like in a turbidite, which is just a underwater mud flow. And so this Ellensburg Formation, it runs along Highway 90, and it's 4,000 feet deep. And let's see, we're going to get through all of this. All right, now look at this Ellensburg Formation here. You'll notice how you have all these bent layers. And this reminds me a lot of looking at the Grand Canyon. And let's see, there's a word for it now. I'm trying to remember it. An unconformity. It's almost like we're looking at unconformities here.
Non-conformity.
Huh?
Non-conformity.
Yeah, well, it could be an unconformity or a non-conformity. And anyway, they will tell you that the evolutionists will say, well, there's a lost time here. And actually, this is just layer after layer after layer, and there's no erosion marks between them. And you'll notice how this looks so similar to this. Now, that's the Little Grand Canyon, okay, at Mount St. Helens. And then here we have the wave in northern Arizona, which looks very similar in a sense to the Ellensburg Formation. And so we're looking at modus operandi here. We're looking at similarities. And there you've got big rocks and little rocks. You've got this non-conformity or unconformity appearance there. And I mean, this is really amazing how this all ended up there, but this all ended up here catastrophically. Okay, so there, now you look at the Grand Canyon, it looks very similar, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm told that a lot of the Grand Canyon is mud flows. That's what makes up the sides of the canyons. Okay, then we have the Columbia River basalt flows. And let's see, we'll just go through that real quick. And when you're up there at Lions Rock, you're looking down into what almost looks like a giant volcano, but yet you have all of these sandstone features, these huge sandstone pillars down there. And we'll look at those in just a second. Now we have the Wenatchee Formation. Now that's the next one. So you got the Ellensburg Formation, you got the Columbia River basalt flows, and you have the Wenatchee Formation. And this reminds me of places in Utah where you have the red rock. Okay, so here we are at Walmart taking a picture of this, and it reminds me of a place where you could probably find dinosaur bones. You know, it looks similar to that there. Okay, then we have the Roslyn Chumstick Formation, and according to the evolutionists, it can be 9 to 30,000 feet deep. So we're going way over 50,000 feet deep here. Okay, and in this Chumstick strata, look at that. There's a layer that's almost 180 degrees right there. And you find this kind of stuff all over the area. Here's a place where I found tons of fossils. I slammed on the brakes, slid sideways, and we found lots of fossils there. And there's one of them that was just full of leaf fossils. That's part of the Roslyn Formation. That's where you find coal, okay? And then you find these sandstone pillars, and it looks kind of spooky because they're just dotted everywhere, which is strong evidence that an ice flow did not go through here and carve this out. This is more evidence of a water catastrophe. And what you're looking at here is leftovers after the water catastrophe going through here. Hence, you know, Noah's flood. And look at that. That's almost 180 degrees right there. And let's see, there's places where, okay, you find just these sandstone features. They're just sitting out there in places out in the forest. It looks kind of weird. And this is Cheese Rock, which is part of the Roslyn Chumstick Formation. And we're near Roslyn, Washington. And okay, then we get to the coal, and I talked about the coal already. And then the Teanaway Formation is 5,000 feet deep. And then at the very bottom, we have the Swak Formation. And Okay, so we talked about the basalt dikes. We'll just hurry through that. So the Swack Formation, there's a basalt dike that's going right through the Swack right there. So a guy could burrow in there and maybe find gold. Okay, and so the Swack Formation is made up of what's so-called river rock, which is not river rock, it's a flood deposit. Okay, and it's made up of conglomerate, shale, sandstone, all that stuff. Okay, and so I was going to show you some similarities to Glacier National Park, but yeah, when you look at Glacier, you look at that, and then you look at this. This is the Swack Formation. Notice how the layers are at about a 90 degrees there, and right here you're going to find a huge palm frond about right there, and there it is. You're looking straight up at it, and here is ripple marks, and I can't tell you where those ripple marks are at, because by these ripple marks we find that. You see what that is? That's a dinosaur footprint.
Oh, wow.
And they're claiming that that's 52 million years old. Well, we're not advertising where that's going to be, because they'll come and destroy that. That dinosaur footprint is like this. It's vertical, the same as these ripple marks. And this is in the Swack. And there was a mosasaur tooth found in here too. And here you have cross-bedded sandstone by the dinosaur footprint, by the ripple marks. This is all underwater. This is evidence of a universal flood. Okay, there you go. And so anyway, this is the end. This is just a quick synopsis of everything that we went over. 50,000 feet of sedimentary layers, wire gold, agates, thunder eggs, geodes, diamonds. Oh, we didn't get to talk about diamonds. And I saw a diamond. The gold miner found a diamond in his gold mine. Well, that makes sense because of Mount Stewart. Mount Stewart has all the right minerals that you would find with diamonds. You see, so this book here that I was showing you, it talks about, they think that there has to be diamonds in the area because of the types of minerals. See, remember what I said? A leads to B, B leads to C. You look for similarities, the modus operandi, okay? And so, all right, so that'll be the end. I'm done. That was quick. That's about a 3-hour lesson that I put in. That probably did it, what, in an hour?
Wow. And that was a lot to take in. That was a lot of good information. I think we've really been enjoying it.
Was talking on mute. I apologize. I was going to say, yes, that was a lot of information. And Diane, one of our regulars, said that you offered to talk about gold. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, he said that he could come back and talk to us specifically about gold.
Oh, okay. Because I missed that. I don't know how I missed that. Okay.
I vote
another time in May to give a different lesson, but
yeah, Mark is coming back on May 13th with a different lesson, but we haven't put anything in print yet, so we could always adjust that if we need to. We could talk about it afterward. We do have some questions, Mark, from the audience. June would like to know if you're still doing tours. Can you talk about the tours you still do?
Well, I haven't done one since 2017. Since my wife got sick, I haven't been able to do any of that lately. Maybe sometime in the future, I'm thinking maybe next year I might be able to. I actually do take quite a few people out. I don't charge anybody at this time. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, why don't you show me where these fossils are at, all these neat places? Yeah, we can get together on a weekend or something, or I can take a day off from work and we can go to these places. So that's kind of the level at what I'm doing now.
Okay. And I think probably we could go ahead and turn off your share screen now. If you hover up above, and then you can click on a red button that says stop share.
Okay. Yep.
There we go. Okay. All right. So next question is where was the place in northern Arizona? You had a slide from northern Arizona that had an orangish color.
Yeah,
Where was that?
well, that is near Kanab. It's near Kanab. I think, is that in Utah? I think that's in Utah. So it's right there at the northern border of Arizona and the southern border of Utah. But it's in Arizona. It's north of the Grand Canyon. It's called the Wave of Paria, and they only allow, I think, 20 people in there at a time. And it was miraculous that I ever got in there because I got this really good friend down the street, and he was putting in for the lottery to win that, and he won several tickets, and he took me there. So
Wow.
I got to see the place. And from what I understand, there's thousands of people who put in for it, and it takes years to finally win a position so that you can legally hike in there.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord that you got to do that. And
Yes.
then Jeff is asking, are there palm tree fossils in Washington?
Yes. The palm leaves. We have the palm leaf fossils. Okay. Here in Washington, tons of them in central Washington. Okay. So yeah, that's one of the fossils we've got. We're also known for all of our mammoth fossils. We got a big mammoth dig going on Clodfelter Road, just down the street here from where I'm at.
Wow, that's exciting. Okay,
Yeah.
and then on Facebook we have Brian watching along with us, and he's asking if the granite earlier was that blue? You had some blue rocks.
Okay. The blue rocks. Okay, I think you're referring to these. This
Okay.
is agate. It's not Ellensburg blue. It wants to be Ellensburg blue. I wished it was. The granite. This is the granite here. Now it might look blue on the screen, but it's white. It's white and black. You know,
Back it up a
Oh,
little bit. Back it up a little bit because there's a glare on it. Okay, right there. That's good.
okay. Yeah. And then this here is the agate that I found in the river when I jumped in. And so this is the granite, and the little black spots is biotite mica. And someone's pointed out, they says, well, if that mountain is granite and it's got biotite mica in it, there's no way it could have lasted 92 million years because biotite mica is very low on the Mohs scale, like about I don't know, a 1, a 2, or a 3, something like that. So that mountain should have wore down millions of years ago if it was a million years old, you know. So that's just another evidence to show that mountain is young. It can't be old.
Mark, do you
okay.
have any
All right.
YouTube presentations of what you've given us tonight?
Oh yeah, I have a YouTube channel. It's Tri-Cities Creation Science Club, and it's got a lot of my documentaries that I've been making. Tri-Cities Creation Science
Okay.
Club. Type that in.
Yeah, Tri-Cities Creation Science Club. And then you have a website as well, don't you, Mark?
Yeah, it's Mark's Academy of Science. That's for my students mostly. I'm starting to change it around from electronics to geology because this coming year I'm going to be teaching geology. And I've had so much interest in people wanting to put all these pictures on my website so that they can share them of all the explorations I've done. So you got to understand, God has really blessed. I have friends, I'm sorry, they have money. And they're able to pay, and they have paid for some of my exploration trips because they believe that if they pay me, then I'm going to be able to get out there and present all of this. And I don't know, maybe one of those guys is listening right now.
Yeah, well, praise the Lord for, and it seems like it's a good investment that you're being a good steward of that resource because you're using it to tell people about what you're finding and how it proclaims the glory of the Lord, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely. This is really exciting. I mean, this is kind of living a dream because I wanted to do this when I was 6. And then I
I-
thought I was never going to get to do it. And then at some point in time, the Lord just started blessing in an amazing way. And so I get really excited about this stuff, you know, because
Hey.
I thought this would never happen.
I have a quick question about the dinosaur footprint.
Yes.
Okay, so I saw the water, the waves were tilted,
Yes.
and obviously the dinosaur footprint was tilted. Was there another dinosaur footprint close by, or did you just
That's-
capture?
That's a good question. And we haven't found another one. The guy at the museum, Will Marin, he says, man, I wish we could find another print. We've never been able to find another one. But, you know, some people, they'll say, well, that looks like one. But if you saw it in real life, I mean, it looks like a dinosaur footprint. Now, it's a small one. It's small. It's about like that. It's not big. I mean, the picture makes it look big.
Yeah, it looks really big.
Yeah, but it's about like that.
In
About-
it in Nevada, in Red Rock Canyon, near just outside of Las Vegas, that park there has dinosaur tracks, but they won't tell you where they are.
oh,
Yeah, so I tried to find them, but it was like 100 million degrees, and you didn't want to spend any time out there.
yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that about wraps it up for our questions. So, Mark, if you want to tell people one more time how they can find you.
Okay. Well, you can find me on Facebook. You just type in Mark Finkbeiner. And then if you become my friend, I'd be able to direct you to my other Facebook pages. One is called the Tri-Cities Creation Science Club. The other one is called Mark's Academy of Science. Or you can go to YouTube, type in Tri-Cities Creation Science Club. And I got all my documentaries that I've been making. And then Mark's Academy of Science website. So there's a Mark's Academy of Science Facebook. There's Mark's Academy of Science website. So that's how you find me.
Okay.
Mark,
Yeah.
I've been listening to somebody by the name of Nick Zentner
Yes.
presenting stuff. Are you familiar with him, and what sort of interactions have you guys had with him?
Well, I listen to him a lot. In fact, he's the reason why I know what I know. He's a guy who is actually giving us creation scientists all the ammunition. I mean, he and a bunch of other geologists, secular geologists, are the people that are coming up with this 50,000 feet of sedimentary layers. And he's got a lot of information about fossils that are being found in Washington. In fact, just down the Columbia River, the White Bluffs, there's been saber-toothed tiger fossils, camel fossils, rhinoceros fossils, horse, badger, I think beaver, all of that just down the Columbia River in what we call the White Bluffs area. And then the other thing I didn't get a chance to mention was that the Ellensburg Formation, you find the same fossils they found there. So I'm thinking that the Ellensburg Formation and the White Bluffs Formation is actually the same thing.
Did you? I didn't get in quite on time. So did you cover the various varves that are shown there in the flood geology lakes that are from the Ice Age?
Right. I know what you're talking about. Let's see. Okay.
Well, there's one place where there's 40 of them and another place where there's about 90 of them. And so the evolutionists want to claim that those are each one a separate flood. But if you look at them, they're just laid down on top of each other too evenly to be separate floods.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And you're talking about that canyon that's by Walla Walla. And I'm trying to remember the name of the canyon. It was carved out by an irrigation break in the 1930s. And there's a clastic dike that runs through a lot of those layers, which gives really strong evidence that they were all laid down quickly and they were all muddy. And then that dike shot through those layers. And there's a lot of dikes through these layers throughout the country out there. Yeah, there's a lot of those sedimentary layers, and they're not just in this canyon. They're out all over the place. And in fact, we find Mount St. Helens ash going through those layers, which is another strong evidence that those layers, they all had to be laid down at the same time while Mount St. Helens was erupting for the Mount St. Helens ash to go through the layers. It's kind of like a polystrat fossil in a way.
Because the way it's been presented is it was laid down on in between one set of layers rather than laid down continuously.
Right. Yes, that's how they explain it. But they don't tell you that the ash is actually going through the layers. And I have pictures of that. That could be another presentation I could do on the Missoula flood and all that stuff. Because see, I live right in the middle of Missoula flood territory. So I got all this evidence, you know. We got lots of mammoths being dug up right here, lots of Mount St. Helens ash. And another thing is that Mount St. Helens ash is pure. So when Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980, and I was here when it erupted, you know, it left a half an inch of ash in different places. And it only took a year or less for that ash to just go away. But when you look in those varves that you're talking about, there's ash layers and they're all pure. They're not contaminated. So that's another evidence that those layers had to be laid down quickly while Mount St. Helens was erupting during the Missoula flood. And this place, it was covered in water called Lake Lewis. And so Lake Lewis was so heavy, it caused Mount St. Helens to erupt while the Missoula flood was happening and all that water dammed up here.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. And Mark, you did tell everybody where they can find you. And as for us, we're Creation Fellowship Santee. And again, most of our past videos of our different speakers are on our YouTube channel. Just search for Creation Fellowship Santee, Santee. You can also find us on our Facebook page, Creation Fellowship Santee. And you can email creationfellowshipsantee@gmail.com to get on our mailing list so that you don't miss any upcoming speakers. So thank you so much for that, Mark. We're going to go ahead and end our recording and stop the live stream on Facebook. But if you can stick around to maybe answer one or two more questions and we can talk about what's coming up next week and you could pray to close us, that would be great. So thank you, Mark.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So next week we have a doctor, a real medical doctor, coming to talk about natural healthcare. He's a chiropractor, and he was a colonel in, was it Army?
He was in the Air Force. He's not a chiropractor, but he is an MD, and he was trained in the military to use acupuncture to treat battlefield.
The acupuncture is what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah, to treat battlefield injuries. So he's been able to use that. He is a civilian now. He's retired, but he works at the Joint Andrews base in Maryland or Washington, D.C. So he'll be joining us next week. Yeah.
Yeah, I meant to say acupuncture. I don't know why I said chiropractor. I guess because I had the chiropractic and the acupuncture together. And the reason, you know, people are like, what does that have to do with creation? Well, God created our bodies, and people are putting lots of wrong things into their bodies. Most recently, of course. And so I just thought it was a good idea to have a doctor speak to us on natural health and caring for ourselves.
Okay. I have to, my tablet is malfunctioning, so I'm going to just shut it down completely. So I'm going to go and then that'll stop the live Facebook. So Robin, I think you're going to have to take over from here.
Okay. All right. So if anybody else has any questions, we're stopping the live stream. If you have any questions for Mark, if you want to unmute yourselves and go ahead and thank him or ask a question, feel free. This is the time to do that.
Well, I got to say that I really enjoyed this tonight. This was very, very interesting, and I learned things.
Thank you.
Diane was supposed to do a trip to Mount St. Helen, but thanks to the government, she was not able to.
Yeah.
Actually, several of us here were going to go up there to Mount St. Helen to take a tour.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard that they're going to have one in August through, can't think of the creation guy now, but
Living Water Camp,
Melvin was gonna do.
Living Waters, yeah.
Living Waters Camp.
right.
Yeah.
That trip is supposed to be the same one that we
Well,
were
he's one of the
working
guys.
on last year,
Head guy.
Right.
and
Yeah,
it's
Carla,
been
you
rescheduled.
Too, huh?
Yeah, we're gonna go in August.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
we're
have to look in.
And me.
Yes. We
Who's
gotta look-
me? Oh, June.
Yeah, we're gonna look into that, June, see if they're still doing it. So Carla, do you know they're doing it?
yeah, I know they're doing it. We're signed up to do it again.
Oh, all right, then we gotta
Yeah.
find out about it.
It was canceled last year.
Yeah,
Who's
yeah.
putting it on?
It's Living Waters Camp in Minnesota,
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
But
But then there's a lot of different creation guys who are kind of all working together. But
Jay Seegert,
Living Waters is the one that's kind of heading it up. Do you remember his